And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. I'm Rick Unger, joined by my co-host Joe Concha, and filling out the panel tonight, as always, Heather Hansen, and of course, Bill Tucker. Besides challenging John McCain's status as a war hero, Donald Trump is also taking the Arizona senator to task for his stance on immigration and veterans affairs.
I do have a problem with what he's doing on the border. He's terrible. And I do have a problem with the fact with the illegal immigration is a disaster. And he's doing a horrible job for the vets. Matt, I see the vets. They come to me. These are powerful, wonderful people, and they're crying. They don't know what to do. They're lost because of what we're doing. Frankly, illegal immigrants are treated better than many of our vets. It's a disgrace what's happening in this country.
Joe Concha, has he got that right? Are illegal immigrants being treated better than our nation's veterans?
In some cases, with illegal immigrants, they'll go into an ER and get treated right away.
Right.
You go into a Veterans Affairs hospital, and that's a different ballgame because the wait is just long and long and long. So from an overarching perspective, he does have a point, Rick.
He does. You know, Heather, staying on that point because it's an interesting one. The difference is at the VA, you're supposed to get any treatment you need for as long as you needed it. Too many people aren't getting it, clearly. When an immigrant goes into an ER, they're treated till they're stabilized like everybody else.
Right. So it depends on the care that you're receiving, but it shouldn't be that way no matter what. It should be that the VA, the veteran, gets the best care, whether it's at an emergency room, whether it's at no matter what type of care, whether it's immediate care, long-term care. And that is a problem. And again, Donald Trump is hitting the nerve of many, many people when he speaks to these issues because they know it's true and no one else is willing to say it.
Bill, here's my question. You know, while that may be true, don't you wonder why is all the focus, thanks to Donald Trump, on immigration, when I would argue the biggest issue in this country today is what's happening at the VA? If we can't keep our deal with our veterans, who in the world are we?
Well, first of all, I agree with you 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. But he has set a line. He set a line I've heard more times than I could count over the last 8 years in covering immigration stories. And people connect those, and they connect them because it's an emotional connection. Illegal immigrants get treated better than veterans is a very highly emotional statement, and it gets people's attention. That's what people think, and that's why he said it.
And yet, all this talk about Trump and everything he's supposedly telling the truth about, this is the first time he's mentioned the VA. And, you know, yeah. Joe, right?
I wonder why.
Yeah. Very good. Joe, you would probably agree that including John McCain, all of our elected officials have dropped the ball in the VA. We keep seeing worse statistics. There's more people waiting now than were waiting a year ago when the whole fiasco broke wide open. What's Trump offering up on this?
That's the thing. You don't really hear a plan. You hear. He talks about McCain saying all he does is talk, 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 but you never see anything concrete from Donald Trump. But people will still believe it, though, because he is unapologetic. He is like a bull in a china shop, and some people perceive that as he will get things done, unlike a John McCain.
So Trump's going to stick with immigration, and his new comments on immigration come as a new report from the Center of Immigration Studies, along with the Pew Research Center, finds 2.5 million illegal immigrants have flooded into the country during the Barack Obama presidency. What does this mean for 2016, Heather Hansen?
Well, I think that it certainly has become a bigger issue because of Donald Trump's rhetoric on the whole thing. I think that ultimately we've got to focus on other things as well. You know, I think that a lot of other things, foreign policy, the Iran deal, you know, there's a lot of other things that have sort of fallen to the wayside because we've been so focused on immigration. But immigration is a big deal to a lot of Americans, and it's something that the rest of the Republican Party has to get ready to focus
But when you look through the study that's being cited here, you see a fascinating detail. Mm-hmm. You see that a lot more of this illegal immigration isn't coming from Mexico, right, Bill? It's coming from Europe.
You know,
it's coming from Asia.
What's interesting, Rick, is Steve Camarata, who I've talked to over the years a number of times, is a very good researcher and can be a bit dry when you talk to him. But he is very thorough and has a lot of integrity. And it has always been the case, actually, that most of the illegal immigrants in this country are people who are visa overstays. They come here, their visa runs out. Well, they've got a driver's license, they got a social security number.
So why are people talking about that instead of constantly talking about the wall we should be building? We're not doing enough with Mexico.
Because they feel like there's something
they can from Mexico.
I know, because I guess, Rick, I don't have a good answer for you except that they feel like there's something that can be done about the people pouring across an unprotected border. Well, but you're right. And you mentioned this. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who are shocked, who have no idea that once your visa runs out, nobody can find you.
Nobody bothers
where
you.
You are.
So, Joe, I think Bill's right. It's an easier thing to complain about when we talk about people crossing the border. But there's a few things that people aren't talking about. While this is an unfortunate record, I'd like to see there be no illegal immigration. The reality is, under Barack Obama, it's less than it was under the previous administration. Even our friend Bill over here is willing to agree with that because that's the case, right? So what do we have to do to get not a Donald Trump type of conversation of anger going, but a real conversation about immigration, including these real facts that we've been presented with?
Rick, as long as Donald Trump is in this race, that is where all the oxygen is going to go. That is where all the media attention is going to go. He rates well for all the networks across the board because he gives you a soundbite like a Terrell Owens.
So it's our fault.
Yes, it is.
It is our fault.
Yes, exactly. Because
is.
media is just as much a business as it is about journalism.
All right. So finally, here's part of the story you probably haven't heard yet. Did Donald Trump rip off Chris Rock's material from 2008? Watch this.
He a war hero. He a war hero. He a war hero that got captured.
What?
He even said it 4 times. I just want to point it out.
Yep. He says, I know plenty of people in jail that got captured also, and I'm not a fan of them either. I mean, it is almost verbatim between Chris Rock in 2008 talking about McCain.
Trump is stealing Chris Rock's material.
Yes, and Al Franken's apparently.
But
Al Franken's apparently.
we're not. But he's not a comedian. Not supposed to be a comedian or an entertainer. Supposed to be somebody who's going to run this country.
All right, we got to get out of the segment, but I got to tell you something. I have more to say about this.
And Chris Rock's obviously a Republican.
Right, is Donald Trump your candidate? If so, go to newsmaxpolls.com and cast your vote. Coming up next, the latest on the Iran nuclear deal right here on the Daily Wrap. Don't go anywhere because we are coming right back.